on the brink of war.
Chris Evans is officially making his return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a few years, and the role he's rumored to take in Avengers Doomsday might just open the door for him to stick around a lot longer. Let's be real, Evans is one of the biggest icons of the MCU. Alongside Robert Downey Jr., he helped carry the Avengers films, all of which crossed the $1 billion mark at the box office. And when it comes to superhero trilogies, many fans put his Captain America trilogy at the very top. Now that Avengers Doomsday is prepping to start filming in spring 2025, the casting news is already heating up. Evans is jumping back into the action for the first time since Endgame in 2019, and he'll be sharing the screen with major names like Robert Downey Jr., Benedict Cumberbatch, and Pedro Pascal. Even though Marvel's staying quiet on exactly who he's playing or how big the role is, the buzz is strong, and some recent reports suggest that Evans' return could be more than just a one-off cameo. One of the most exciting theories? Evans could be returning as Nomad. That would make a lot of sense, considering his character went through a very similar phase in the MCU after Civil War. Back then, Steve dropped the Captain America title, went underground, and rocked a darker version of his suit, minus the star. While the movies never officially called him Nomad, the vibe was definitely there. Avengers Doomsday could finally let Evans explore that identity more deeply, especially since, in the current MCU timeline, most people think Steve Rogers is either dead or chilling on the moon. Bringing back Nomad would be a clever way to get Evans into the mix without stepping on Anthony Mackie's toes. Sam Wilson is the new Captain America, and that transition deserves the spotlight. But a Nomad version of Steve, working from the shadows, doing his own thing, could totally coexist with Sam's Cap. That dynamic might even strengthen both character stories moving forward. Let's talk about Evans' career outside the MCU. Since Endgame, he's taken on a mix of roles, including movies and a streaming show or two. But if you look at his Rotten Tomatoes scores, the results haven't exactly been stellar. Apart from Knives Out, most of his projects have landed in the lukewarm to bad range. His recent movies, like Ghosted and Pain Hustlers, didn't make much noise, and even his theatrical releases struggled. So, if we're being honest, coming back to the MCU might be just what he needs right now. Choosing to play Nomad would also show respect for where the story's been. It gives Steve Rogers a fresh path without rewriting what came before, and importantly, it leaves Sam Wilson's Captain America intact and thriving. Rumors say Haley Atwell is also returning as Peggy Carter in Avengers Doomsday, which is interesting because there were early talks about a Steve and Peggy movie after Endgame. If that's still on the table, Evans coming back might not be just a one-time thing. But there's a bigger question underneath all this. Should Chris Evans be back in the MCU permanently? On one hand, bringing him back is great for fans and could boost box office numbers. On the other hand, the MCU has been trying to introduce new heroes like Shang-Chi and She-Hulk, and making space for them isn't easy if the spotlight keeps swinging back to the old guard. There's also talk of a full MCU reboot after Secret Wars in 2027, which could reset the universe and bring in new versions of old characters. That would make sense, especially since it'll be nearly 20 years since Iron Man kicked everything off. But Evans coming back in a major way might put that reset on pause. He's only 43, and if Hugh Jackman can play Wolverine at 56, Evans could easily have another decade as Steve Rogers. However, if Marvel brings him back in a smaller multiverse-related role, that might actually support a reboot by closing out some legacy arcs before starting fresh. There's also another comic storyline that might point to how Marvel could bring Steve back, without even needing the multiverse. In the 2016 comic event, Avengers Standoff, Steve Rogers gets his youth back thanks to a childlike being named Kobik, who is actually a sentient cosmic cube. It's not the Tesseract, but another cube altogether. This girl has the power to alter reality, and with her innocent intentions, she simply turns Steve young again, not temporarily, but completely. It's a small but powerful twist that could be brought into the MCU without messing with established lore. That brings us to the Cosmic Cube's place in the current MCU. People might wonder if reintroducing such a powerful object would clash with the fact that Steve returned all the Infinity Stones. But here's the thing, the Cosmic Cube isn't an Infinity Stone. Even if Marvel decided to merge the cube with the Tesseract for simplicity, there's room in the lore to say the cube's power could evolve independently. After all, the ether turned from a liquid into a full-fledged reality stone. The MCU has shown that powerful cosmic items can change and regenerate over time. Linking the cube's reappearance to unexplored cosmic energies, like those related to the Celestials or even Captain Marvel's interstellar adventures, could be a cool way to bring this into the fold. It wouldn't require a multiverse explanation and could make for a much cleaner, more focused return for Steve. Plus, if Marvel avoids adapting the controversial Hydra Cap storyline from the comics, it can use the best parts of Standoff without turning Steve into a villain. The story could focus purely on the emotional and narrative weight of him being restored to his prime. This way, the MCU gets to bring back an iconic hero in a way that doesn't undercut his legacy or disrupt the newer storylines already in play. A youthful Steve Rogers would also be a great fit for what's coming next. With the Fantastic Four finally entering the MCU in Fantastic Four First Steps, pairing Cap with Marvel's First Family could create a lot of fun crossover potential. Plus, given that Evans used to play Johnny Storm in the original Fantastic Four movies, there's a playful meta element there too. Seeing his new Captain America interact with Joseph Quinn's Human Torch could be a nice wink to longtime fans. There's also more story to explore with Steve's time travel decisions. We've never really gotten to see how those choices affected the timeline. A young Steve returning in the current MCU era could dive into those consequences. It's not just about fan service, it's about using a fan-favorite character to explore bigger themes and strengthen the foundation for the next chapter of the MCU. In the end, reviving Chris Evans as Steve Rogers might serve as a clever, poignant means of bridging the old and new MCU. It's not about reliving past glories, it's about opening new doors while honoring what came before. Evans' return could be the boost the MCU needs, giving audiences the Captain America they remember while setting up new challenges, new teams, and maybe even a few surprises. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments.